This week, we will not have our usual Tech Bite segments, but Janine will be back next week with another exciting episode. The commemoration, formerly known as Baron Bliss Day on March 9th, dedicated to honoring the country's foremost benefactor, the seafaring baron who advocated for annual boat races on that day, has evolved into National Heroes and Benefactors Day since 2008. The Baron Bliss Harbour Regatta, a long-standing tradition, features sailing boats from coastal communities and cayes. The area from Memorial Park to the Animal Park, opposite the Baron Bliss Lighthouse, would be restricted for the event. Sailors of all ages, both young and old, would participate in various races. Due to various reasons, the regatta was relocated to the Buttonwood Bay area, in front of the Seashore Promenade, where mainly small boats and participants aged 8 to 17 would take part. Today, we are joined by Mr. Roberto Pott, committee member of the Baron Bliss Harbour Regatta. Welcome, Mr. Roberto Pott.
Thanks, Garfia.
So, Mr. Pott, tell us a little bit more about the Baron Bliss Regatta and your role as a committee member.
Well, it all started back in 1927. Baron Bliss is the single most largest benefactor to Belize ever, as far as I know. And he gave $1 million that helped to build the hospital, the library, that used to be the best library by foreshore. And then he also dedicated or put in his trust the conditions that they host a regatta, which he had hosted several years out of his own pocket. And for us, sailing was a part of our industry. That's how we traveled along the coast. We didn't have many roads back in the early 1900s. And so sailing was how we transported, and that's how our economy moved. It didn't move on wheels, it moved with sail. And so sailing, we continue to celebrate, and this will be our 95th Baron Bliss Harbour Regatta.
Okay, and you are a committee member, so tell us why it's so unique and so special to you.
Right. I'm not only a committee member, it would be remiss of me if I didn't say that I'm also the skipper of the Belize Sea Scouts, which falls under the Scout Association of Belize. And what we were doing since our formation in 2003 is to provide a structured program for youths to get involved in sailing. I know growing up, I got in sailing through Sir George Brown, who was the first Chief Justice in Belize. And the training regimen included a paddle to knock you in the head if you stepped out of line. And so we know now that you don't use corporal punishment. You don't get the results you want out of youngsters. And so that's what the Scout Association does, and the Belize Sea Scout does that through sailing. It's not just about sailing, it's about providing a structured, safe environment where we culture strong leaders, because we eventually put a youth in a boat by himself, and he has to have the management skills, he has to have the communication skills, he also has to have the wherewithal to be able to lead his crew. If your crew is not working together, then, like they said, we either sink or we swim. And so that's what we do through the Belize Sea Scouts. Right. When we formed the Sailing Association in 2010, when we got a sizable donation through the chair, the Venerable Charles B. Hyde, and his secretary, the retired Brigadier General Alan Usher. They were the driving forces that brought in up to 50 boats for youths to help start up our youth sailing program. And that leveraged another 20 boats. So we had about 70 youth sailing boats. The class is called Optimist. There was a lot of debate. We didn't want to buy fiberglass because it went against everything that we believed in. But we realized that we had to do this in order to revitalize the sport. Okay. And so we've managed to do that.
Right. And so you talk about fostering this culture for the regatta, and we're relatively at the start of the new year. What is it that we have to look forward to for 2024 in terms of, this?
Right.
Yeah.
So, as you said, we've moved to the Buttonwood Bay area. Unfortunately, another shortfall in the development especially of our municipal areas, is that we don't leave seafront spaces for our communities. We are lucky to have BTL Park, and we see them gradually encroaching on on the seaside, that we call the Sandlighters Promenade. It hurts when you start to see them building structures where it should be open spaces for our people to go out and recreate. Because especially in Belize City, growing up in Buttonwood Bay, we enjoy going by the seaside and just hanging out. If you go to Corozal on a Sunday, you will see the seaside packed with people just picnicking. And the city council should only have to provide that space and a safe space again for families to go out and recreate. And that's what we're trying to do in Buttonwood Bay. There's the open space on the seaside, on Seashore Drive. And we'll be operating out of Smokies. And the chair of the Harbour Regatta Committee, Colette Mejia, in his wisdom, designed the course so that anybody along the coast can get a good view of the race. What has happened, and what used to happen out by Fort Point, is that everybody is standing on the wall and the boats are hard to see. Like you'd need a binoculars to see the boats. And so it just wasn't spectator friendly. And so we've tried to create a spectator friendly event. We're trying to work with the Belize City Council to be sure that that space on Seashore Drive is open, clean, and people can come out and what the Americans call tailgate. You bring your ice box, you bring your picnic chair, your lounge chair, and you enjoy the race. You don't even have to understand the race, although we'll have a commentator explaining. It's what the nature experts refer to as enjoying that green and blue space. It's for, if you read Becca Lamb, you look out over the sea and you have hope. It gives you hope when you look beyond the horizon.
Yeah, so this event in particular, we know that it takes place on the 9th of March weekend, similarly to La Ruta Maya. That's very near and dear to a lot of my friends and myself. So has it negatively impacted the regatta, itself?
No, I think we welcome the inland communities going, because we're all connected by water. We're all connected by water here in Belize. And what we needed is for the communities inland to take care of their water, because that Belize River is where I think maybe 60% of our population gets its water. And if we don't get the communities involved in the management, we will lose it. The Ruta Maya is complementary. There's no competition.
So
there could be no competition. We've been around for 95 years.
Okay.
When they reach half a century, then maybe they could start competing.
Okay. And how is it funded, the regatta? Is it privately subsidized by the government? Tell us a little bit more about that.
We get some seed funds from the Baron Bliss Trust, not enough to go anywhere. And so we've had to reach out to the corporate sector, the business sector to support us. BTB has come on board because we're looking at this as an opportunity to promote this as a cultural tourism experience. Okay. The sailing dories that come up from Gales Point are the last of its kind, and the good people down at Gales Point, they are proud of their culture, and they insist they want to sail sailing dories. And I say insist because if anybody ever tries sail a sailing dory, I call it high performance. But again, we want to do this in a sustainable manner. With sports in general, we've seen where people go cap in hand every year, and we want, that's not sustainable. There are times when you can do it and times when you should.
It sounds like to me that there are quite a lot of things to consider, especially in terms of regatta and the Sailing Association. But I believe we have run out of time for today. But Mr. Pott, thank you so much for your very insightful conversation. We really appreciate having you here today with us. So thank you.
And thanks for having me.
Okay. When we return, Destiny Wagner discusses innovation of young entrepreneurs in MSMEs.